All right. So we have a few things to talk about.
Raul, would you like to kick things off?
Yes. So there's the link to Community Update 178. I have a fair amount to go through, and there is kind of some intricate dependencies that I'll try to simplify and explain, but hopefully it'll be clear. So let me share my screen and go over those. So right now, there's not any change to the networks at the moment. The focus last week has been continuing work on block merge, preparing for integration with the hardware solution that we're working on, and getting ready for hard fork 1. And as far as the block merge work, there is still work continuing there. But what we discovered last week, and I spoke about this, but I just wanted to repeat a little bit to make sure that the folks follow. What we discovered as we were doing the block merge work last week is that there is a change needed to the tree hash map depth. It's currently configured as depth of 1, and we needed to increase that to depth of 4. And that has changed the sequence of our releases. We were previously thinking we'll release block merge first, and then we'll do hard fork 1. But this particular change to increase the depth parameter for initialization of the tree hash map that is being used to store the POS rewards, that has necessitated that we release hard fork 1 first and then do the block merge, because this is something we need for completing and testing the block merge part of the code for that. So because of that, the team is now reoriented to prioritize hard fork 1 activities. They're still working on the block merge activities, but really to get the hard fork 1 completed, tested thoroughly, and documented and deploy the hard fork 1. Now, to do hard fork 1 requires quite a bit of coordination, both with the community and with the exchanges. So when we do the final hard fork cutoff, meaning when we are going to be in the new hard fork, there'll be about a 24-day period, a 24-hour period when the exchanges will be asked to stop all transactions so that we can cut over to the new network, the new Genesis. So that's where a lot of the emphasis is being put now, is to get ready for that. So the changes, this would be the only change really that we're targeting there with the hard fork 1, is the tree depth configuration. Other than that, we will just be carrying the balances from the current mainnet to the hard fork 1. The block height will continue to be the same. So you should not notice anything other than that we're not carrying the full state from the current mainnet over to the hard fork 1. So that's the idea. Now, as far as targets on that, current plan is to complete the activity in about 10 days to 2 weeks. However, as you can see from the dates that I've chosen here, I'm saying the first target date set is July 11th through 14th. And that we're targeting that because that's a weekend. So hopefully it is less disruption. I have not looked at what people are doing on the exchanges, but in general, they're quieter over the weekend. So that was the idea, that we chose that date. And the following weekend is the backup in case things are not ready. So that's the plan for now. And we're going to communicate and work with the exchanges to see if they think weekends are better for them from a support standpoint, or they would rather do a weekday, either a Friday or a Monday or something like that. Likely Friday, I guess, if they want to go that route. So that needs to be validated with them, and we're in the process of doing that. So we'll pick a date accordingly. But meanwhile, we're going to publish the balances from the mainnet for everybody to review. And we will also document the full process so that anybody from the community can rerun the entire process for themselves, including what the potential hard fork 1 would look like and all that. So both the data and the process that we're following, you would be able to verify for yourself. And at the very least, we encourage you to really look at your wallet balances when we publish them. There will be announcements in the Discord channels, both the member channels and development channels. So please watch for those and make sure that your data is correct at the very least. And for those that are interested in or equipped to validate the entire process and audit the entire process, we welcome that from the community members. So that's the activity there. The tasks in terms of these are the tasks that are going on relative to hard fork 1. These are the 2 open tasks. And here are the tasks that are already completed relative to hard fork 1. These are the completed tasks. Okay. Also, next week, Tomislav will be presenting the full process that we're following, and the documentation will be available between now and then. And then we will explain how the community can validate the process on their own and take any questions on the documents. So the documentation, as soon as it's available, we're going to publish that out, and we're going to announce that in the Discord channels also. So that is the hard fork 1 plan. And now I want to speak to what we're doing with the releases. So there is, like I said, there is work going on still with block merge. And one of the things that block merge requires is a per block DAG view. Basically, when we're doing concurrent block processing, the local view of the validating node may be different from the view of the block creator, in the sense that there may be more messages being processed in between. So to be able to validate the blocks, we need to update the Casper view according to the justifications of the block being validated. So there is a change that was put in place for that. And as part of that, we needed to migrate the last finalized block from last finalized store to the block DAG store so that it can be part of the block metadata. So this change was being worked on, is being worked on by the team. And this we will release as R node version 0.11.0. If you recall, so far, we did not release a 0.11.0. We were saying there's alpha, there's beta, and there is a release candidate. So this, after this PR is merged, after reviews and all that, we're going to release the 0.11.0. And then the hard fork 1, we will release as 0.12.0 with the hard fork. So that's what is going to happen with the releases. And this 0.11.0 will be ready to go on the mainnet soon, because we have tested 0.11.0 multiple versions for a period of time now. So that's there's a lot of other activity also that was completed in the block merge space I'm not going to go into detail of that, but you can certainly review the PRs. Both those are in review right now, and those that were closed in the last week on the GitHub. I want to speak to one other or two other activities. On the hardware-based performance improvements, there has been substantial progress. Now the two teams are working in tandem to get their pieces ready in such a way that we could validate in code the potential performance improvements from the hardware solution. So the hardware partner is doing their bit of the code. Our team, especially Dennis and Tomislav, are working on our side of the code, and with a lot of coordination between the two to make sure that we can get to performance numbers that both teams are fully comfortable standing behind when the eventual hardware solution is going to be rolled out. So they had to develop their API for that, and they will be finishing that. And we needed to see how to hook to their API from our code, and that's the work that Dennis and Tomislav have been working on. The idea is that we're going to do this in a couple of rounds. The first round is not going to the full node, but it's more a substantial part of the simulated, I would call it simulated tuple space, to make sure that, okay, these kinds of inserts updates with this amount of tuple space size is something we are comfortable fits in one card from their side and gives this kind of performance. So that's the first level of performance validation we're going to do. And then we will do the full node validation eventually. So that's where we are with that. And on their end, again, there are a couple more variations underneath that. You know, they have a simulated environment where they're going to run the test first, and then they're actually going to do it on the hardware. So you can imagine that there is, 2 to 4 combinations of levels of validation of the numbers that will be done before we come back and say, here is what it is looking like. So that's quite a good progress, and I think it's we're getting to that sooner than anticipated in some ways for the hardware solution. The last piece I want to speak to is the progress on the progress on the RevVault. I mean the soft fork process that is really part of the hard fork 2 release. But I said last week that we had an initial design spec that was agreed on and is being documented. It is being documented, and also Isaac is working on a proof of concept code for that to identify any issues in the design spec. So that also is something we should be able to present, if not next week, the following week at least. But depending on what the timelines are, we should be able to present that soft fork state migration process, because that will make a lot of things easy for us when we get to the hard fork 2, because when you do have changes that require some change to the structure, but really are not, don't require, as much as possible, we want to make any changes be a soft fork rather than a hard fork. Because that improves the resilience and the ability of the network to improve and upgrade in future without causing a whole lot of disruption. So that's something that's being worked on. There has been progress on that, and we'll figure out when we can present that to the community. So those are, I think, my main highlights. Like I said, there is other work that was done that I'm not necessarily taking the time here to speak to. Are there any questions, comments on any of this? is it clear what you should be expecting in terms of releases and hard fork one?
So I just want to add a little bit of color to the hardware discussion. So essentially what we've got now is a C++ header, which is defining the interface between the software on the RChain side, which is the client, and the software plus hardware on the accelerated solution. And the folks who are working on the hardware solution they're vetting the API by writing a test, so that they're doing a reference implementation before going against the chip. So it's essentially a simulation. And what that does is it makes sure that we've really got the API where we want it to be. As soon as we have both ends using the API, then that nails down what data structures are being passed and returned and in what packaging. So that's a very, very important validation. And then on the RChain side, to call that C++ header from Java, there's some Java wrappering, JNI and GNI wrapper that has to go around the H interface so that it's callable from Java and therefore ultimately callable from Scala. So that's essentially the work and that's being done, and we've got it now so that we can call it from Java. They're still working on some memory management issues, but that's really more optimization and efficiency as opposed to making it be callable. So this is extremely exciting, right? Because now we're at the point where the rubber can meet the road. It's no longer just back of the envelope estimations. We can actually make the calls and see what kind of performance we're getting. So that's that development, and we should start to see those numbers coming in within a few days. Any other questions about that or about Rao's update? Okay, Daryl, you ready for the week in review?
Yep. Hey, everybody. Here's the week in review for June 24th to June 30th. Last Thursday at the governance committee call, we discussed requirements for October meeting around the IOB process and whether to use the new voting DApp or the one we used last year. We discussed developing a crawler to find the missing rev and how to fund it. And we also discussed the funding for the proof of concept for C. Ross Talbot's Arnold Family Photographic Library NFT project. On Friday at the Climate Coordination RCast, last Friday's RCast was taken from a particularly fascinating Casper stand-up call from June 14th, dubbed Towards a Living World Update, where Greg extends some thoughts from a presentation he did a few years back. I haven't uploaded it yet, but I should have it up soon, so please check back at blog.rchain.coop to view it. On Saturday at the rGov Smart Contract call, they did rGov Group Action Live Coding. On Monday at the Casper Stand-Up, this week's Casper Stand-Up covered a view of OSLF as a framework for a new foundation of math. Also on Monday, the RDev member co-op planning, review of June rGov rewards. Yesterday in the communications working group, we discussed the process around hiring an outside crypto PR firm to take advantage of the upcoming hardware proof that Greg just spoke about, and SRT's energy use data research, as well as other newsworthy convergences coming to RChain like block merge, the NFT play, etc. I gave an update on the coin market cap updating that we've been doing. Ian gave us an update on the work he's doing in Washington with climate action groups, etc. This morning on the RChain After Active Member Hangout, we discussed smart contracts that could be attributed to the evolution of what NFTs represent. And then the discussion moved to Keybase and Robot. And I would like to just do a shout out to Raphael. Check out Fabco Technologies on YouTube. He's done some great demos on minting NFTs and FTs on Dappy. So check it out. And that's all I have for this week. Back to you, Greg.
Thank you, Daryl. I appreciate it. Any questions for Daryl? Yes. Fiverr really wants to go on a walk. Any questions for Daryl? All right. In terms of the board meeting yesterday, so there was a special board meeting. There were no votes taken. It was largely informational, making sure that we're all in agreement about boundaries and parameters on certain contracts, and yeah, a lot of discussion about the Eve Arnold work that's that's moving at a very rapid pace. Personally, what I'm hoping to happen is a convergence of that work with the hardware acceleration. So ultimately, what we'd like to see is the Eve Arnold collection work on hardware accelerated shard. So that that would really begin to show off all of the strengths, and in some ways it's sort of the a 2.0 version of what we were trying to demonstrate in Berlin, which is that this is really a global compute infrastructure. There's a real and it is possible to build real applications, using real data on chain at scale. So that's the aim, and showing this with the hardware acceleration, I think would be quite a coup. Any questions about that? Okay. Any other questions or comments from the community? Any burning issues that need to be addressed? All right. Well, I will say I'm grateful that the burning issue of 104 degrees in the shade in Seattle seems to have passed for the moment. So we have a pleasantly cool day here today after several days of extreme heat, unprecedented heat in Seattle. And I'm just super grateful to be able to take a breather from that. Unfortunately, I have a feeling that this trend is only going to continue. But this is why we're working at maniacal speed here on RChain to begin to coordinate around the responses to this. I hope everyone stays safe, is able to stay cool, and see you on the other side.